What's going on, everybody? Welcome into the Sun Belt Syndicate, the wrap. We are done with week 3. We are with you from the first kick to the last pitch, brought to you part by Don't Sleep Energy. Check them out either at their website, don'tsleepenergy.com, or on the Amazon shop. You can find all of their products there, as well as Phenom Elite. Football season is in full swing, so if you've got a kid that's playing some flag or some contact football, they've got you covered there. Marv, you said the kids' baseball is still going on, but it's fall ball, right?
Yeah, it's fall ball. So, fall ball just pertains to the season that we'll be playing in. It is completely nothing different than it's not like a lighter version by any stretch of the imagination. It's just the time of the year that you play it.
Gotcha. I know that even college teams play some fall ball, right? Like a couple. That's where it differs, right? Younger kids are different, but the college teams play like a slate of 3 or 4 teams, I think, right?
I think so. I think it's probably when you get like your new kids in after the other kids graduate. When I grew up, fall ball for baseball was like the developmental season, if you will, before you played like your regular season and your all-star stuff. But in today's baseball world, it's just all one season. They just call it whatever they want to call it.
Yeah, makes sense. It's like I guess once they get into the high school level, it's kind of just full recruitment season for them, right? Like some coaches are going to come check them out at certain times when they have the availability to do so. I know your kids really aren't on the recruiting trail age just yet, but
no. So we've
sure
actually
treated it like.
Oh gosh. Anyone listening, if your kid plays travel baseball, you know that from like the 7U age and up, parents do a really good job of screwing up a kid's sport. But we've got a really good friend of ours who their son's a junior in high school. He's a really good baseball player. He actually is my son's pitching coach, and he's getting recruited now. And the way that they do it is, yes, if you're a stud, like the coaches or the scouts or whatever are coming to your high school. But at this time of the year where there is no high school baseball, these older kids do what they call showcases, where like you get invited and it's almost like a combine, and then you play games and whatnot. And that's kind of how they get recruited. So this kid, his name's Ian. He just went to a big showcase in Virginia. I think that there's 100 teams there, and he ended up grading out like top 10. Got invited to Texas to play in this big national showcase. So maybe he'll get recruited by a Sun Belt school. We can have him on.
There we go. That would be a perfect world, right? I know we are in the works of trying to get some stuff with some people throughout the week that we will put together. Probably more of a recorded show, because a lot of that stuff is going to happen when they have the availability and not necessarily when we do our Wednesday show or our Sunday night show. Obviously, especially for football, they're kind of wrapping up. They probably want some time away from watching film and, just time to rest up and leave football alone for a bit. So not the greatest times for us to have somebody on a live show, but we will be wrapping up week 3. I've got my ODU on tonight. So repping for the big victors, man. Getting a head coach to lose his job at a power program, that's nothing to sneeze at, right, Marv?
No, it's not. And man, I was checking the score to that one, continuously. And I think at one point it was like 21-0. I was like, holy crap. It's 28-0 at halftime. And man, Colton Joseph just had himself an absolute day.
Yeah, absolutely did. We'll definitely get to that. We also want to welcome in a lot of our viewers who are leaving questions and comments already. Ben James saying, what's up, everybody? And Wolves up. Yes, that's going to be the first game we're going to get to in just a minute. The Herd Dispatch asking if he is late. You are not late. And probably want to stick around since Marshall's got their first victory of the year. That was a pretty good one to see them come out on top there in Huntington. Ben James saying that the upset fell short. Costly penalties at the end for the Red Wolves, and some ghostly penalties too, if we were going to talk about some of that. Destiny wants to know where TJ is hiding. He will be on the show Wednesday night. So TJ is our Wednesday co-host. Marv is our Sunday night co-host. And Destiny, show up and give TJ a hard time. I think I called Southern Miss beating App State, though, if I remember my preseason predictions, and I don't have my paper in front of me. But I think I had App losing, but I could be wrong. I'll have to look. Check that.
I texted you guys this week and said, how in the heck is App a 2.5-point favorite going into this game on the road? I hate to say it, but I bet with my my head, not my heart, and I definitely took Southern Miss and 2.5 points.
Well, yeah, that'll happen. I mean, sometimes it's hard to different. It's also still, as TJ would say, and he has been saying, you don't really know exactly who you have as a team until at least week 3, but even sometimes takes to week 4 because of how the schedule plays out, because of who you play, because of learning to see if you're trying to run a 2 quarterback system early and get down to 1. It's just going to be interesting to see how some of those things play out for some of these teams that are doing things such as that. We've got the Southern Miss fans showing out tonight. SMTT, Southern Miss to the top. For those that don't know what that means, that Buzzard Ball comment there. Destiny said, "I'm safe. I'm good." So she remembered better than I did. But I was pretty sure that Southern Miss would take that one at home as App State, transitions to a new coaching staff and a whole new roster. Southern Miss has really done the same thing, but they came in with a lot of experience that went to the Sun Belt Championship game last year, and App State didn't have that part on their side. So yeah, it's going to be tough to get off the schneid for App after a performance like that. We'll see what happens. We were talking before we went live about how AJ Swan is. We haven't really heard an official update just yet, and apparently a couple programs now, and I honestly think a lot of this stems from the Connor Stallions type stuff. They're holding everything a lot closer to the vest these days, Marv. Are you kind of surprised, or you think that's going to be kind of the new norm?
No, I don't. Not surprised at all. I mean, if you're a head coach and one of your key guys that people could scheme for is injured, and that you you don't want anybody having that knowledge, right? You definitely want to keep that close to the vest, make them, expect the unexpected kind of thing. But if I was a head coach and I knew something, I'm not telling anybody.
Yeah, I'd be exactly the same way. I know that this year is the first year the conference. So any out of conference games don't matter, but the conference games, you have to release some type of injury report. I believe it's Wednesday. I forget the exact time.
It's so vague though, right? Like it's questionable, doubtful, and out. I mean, so out leaves no vagueness. You're not playing, but questionable, doubtful, like what does that even mean?
Yeah, exactly. So you don't even have to disclose where they're injured, which is, I think that's fair, right? Because you don't want somebody to be able to target a guy that says, lower body injury. Okay, early and often hit him low, knock him back out of this game. But at the same time, if you're going to require an injury report and you're not really getting much out of it, I don't really know exactly what that's going to do for you. But we'll see. We'll see it.
It's checking a box. That's all it is.
True. Checking a box, something they can push out as like another entry into a football thing that they can release for the week, some kind of update. Artie says, hey, y'all, one of the worst weekends in recent memory for the Sun Belt. Yeah, we haven't had a great one yet this year, to be honest with you. But we did have, again, ODU taking that big victory over Virginia Tech. Although we have to, Virginia Tech is not a power anymore. They've fallen greatly. This is a team that was winless coming in. So, like I said to some people, I would have taken ODU to win this game before it started. Not maybe by a lot. Like the win was really impressive. I will say that. They came out on top easily. And we'll get into the details a little bit.
Let me ask you this real quick, Dom. Had Arkansas State pulled off the upset against the number 14 team at home, paired with the Old Dominion win, would that have changed your opinion on the overall weekend for the Sun Belt?
Yes, absolutely. It would have. And the reason for that is there was no team that's ever come to Jonesboro before that was ranked higher than number 14. Yeah. I said before the weekend started that Iowa State may be underranked at number 14. And I think they didn't look great. It was 93 degrees, no air movement really, no cloud cover. So it was really hot. They spent $13,000 per bench to keep those kids cool on the sideline during that game. That's an insane number. And unfortunately, the attendance took a large hit because of that. That's the highest ranked team to ever come to your home stadium. And it wasn't even from the looks of it. Okay. I wasn't there, didn't see every angle, but from the looks of it, at some point during the game, it didn't even look like it was half full.
They're reporting the attendance was 22,348.
Okay. So it would have been over half full at that size if that was really how many people were there. I don't know, but it didn't look great when you saw it on the TV. But the people that were there were loud. They were into it. We'll get into a little bit more of that. G. Will saying Life, Liberty, and the Monarchs getting a P4 coach fired. take great pleasure in that because it's an in-state school too, right? If it was like, I don't know, somebody out west, like Cal, and they had the power conference coach fired, they probably wouldn't even care about that. But this is an in-state school. They're definitely going to take a little pride in taking down somebody who probably treats them pretty poorly throughout the rest of the
And it's
time.
not the first time they've beat Virginia Tech either.
Exactly. Yeah. And in fact, that series in history hasn't been around very long. And even when ODU was FCS, it was a little bit competitive there. And now I think the season or the series all time was only 4-2 in favor of Virginia Tech before this weekend. So now ODU is 4-3. They're only down by 1 in the all-time series, I believe. So really impressive. I mean, they just need to keep playing that. And I do think they have a couple matchups coming up here in the next few years between those two schools to keep that going. So that'll be pretty cool. I think the only problem is that they kind of refuse to come to Norfolk. So we'll see if that part,
because I think the last time they came to Norfolk, the last time they went to Norfolk, they lost. So that's probably why they're staying away.
Good point. Yeah. But I will say, and I've told somebody this who was an NC Central fan that was planning to go to the game the other week. I guess he didn't end up going, but I told him, like, if you go, enjoy the stadium. It's a really nice setup. It's very nice to just walk around the exterior. And they have a couple cool little pockets of really good views of the field. And if you're up top, you can kind of see some of the water. I don't know how much you want to sit at the very top of the stadium most times, but not a bad view. Pretty cool place. And very inviting
to brag about.
Yeah, that's true. Ben's saying the Iowa State fans showed up though. That's pretty interesting. That's a good travel for them. But yeah, that's pretty good. Both Sunbelt and Little 12 having rough years so far is what Artie's saying. But yeah, without further ado, let's jump into this action. We're going to go through kind of as the games happened throughout the weekend. So again, the first one is one of the bigger ones that we are going to talk about. Arkansas State only going down to Iowa State 24-16. So this wasn't any type of blowout. In fact, again, if you've seen Twitter, if you watched the game, there were some questionable calls. I do see and agree with what I read from some Arkansas State fans that the pick play that was flagged was legitimately a penalty. Okay. They didn't like it. It doesn't mean it wasn't the right call. The more level-headed fans realized that was the right call. So they didn't get that touchdown. I think it was a touchdown on that play that was called back. The second touchdown that was called back, I think, was a Rayner scramble, or he may have thrown for that one. But there was a completely phantom, at least from the view that I've seen, completely phantom holding call on number 50 from the O-line. They showed the replay. He's in the shot the whole time. Now, did they get the number wrong and it was somebody else and there was some type of legitimate hold on the play? Don't know. They don't show the entirety of the O-line, but the guys that they do show doesn't look like anybody else was holding either. So not really sure where they came up with that call, but let's just put it this way. Arkansas State got zero help and still kept it a game with number 14 in the country, Iowa State. Marv, I know you said you didn't get to watch a ton with the kids' baseball, but if you got to see some of this or something standing out to you specifically that you're finding in this game.
No, I mean, you talked about the penalties. I think they had 10 penalties for 90 yards, and they had some penalties in crucial moments like you just talked about. There could have been some, very iffy penalties. Not could have been. There seems to have been some very iffy penalties. They had the lead at one point, and it was a 1-point game going into late in the fourth quarter. They controlled time of possession. If you look statistically, it's a pretty even game. I'm sad to hear that it wasn't attended the way that you would have thought it would. With the heat. I mean, no offense, suck it up, man. You got a top 15 team in the country coming to your place. Like, show up, you'll be fine. But man, I know that for the conference and for the Rebels fans to pull that off at home would have been phenomenal, and for it to. You hate that any time that you talk about the conclusion of a football game and the final score that you have to be like, well, but, and referees come into play. It's a terrible thing. It's almost like an asterisk. So really wish they would have been able to pull that off. Like I said, if you look at the stat sheet, statistically, they were right there with them. I know you said you thought that Iowa State was underranked. Maybe so. Maybe Arkansas State's better than what people give them credit for. But really wish they would have pulled that off. It would have been great for the conference, obviously great for their program, and do it at home in front of your fans would have been just incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is a game that a lot of people, I mean, the spread was much greater than what actually outcome was, right? So there's a first mark of like a positive thing. When we previewed this with TJ on Wednesday night, we did not have this as a game to watch. We did not have it with in the top couple games category. We had it in kind of like, here's the other games of the weekend. And we were pretty honest with it and said, we don't really expect Arkansas State to hang with Iowa State. Not because we don't believe Arkansas State is a good quality team, but we thought Iowa State was really dang good. And they have been. Arkansas State made them look like the worst they've looked so far this season, if you ask me. So full credit to them. Did the heat, play a factor? Maybe, but it played a factor equally on both sides. So you can't really say that, Iowa State got shocked by the heat coming in, right? I mean, I think that's kind of an even factor, if any at all. So a really good showing. Again, it would be phenomenal to see them 2-1 instead of 1-2. But again, as far as conference play goes, they're really not hurting. There's 0 conference losses for them so far. So this is a good showing as they get closer to conference play starting up here for them. Ben is saying they relied on the run game. Yeah, if they can rely on that run game, it's going to be pretty good. Cross, unfortunately, just got arrested for something. Now, he was already injured and out for the year, so that's not going to have a bearing on the play on the field this year. Will he stick with the program after going through all that? We'll see. But yeah, they found a running back that's more than capable to do it. He transfers in from Southern Miss, Kenyon Clay. So he was having a pretty phenomenal game for him yesterday.
I mean, listen, Jalen Rader had a heck of a game. 220 through the air, did throw the pick, but he was efficient, 19 to 33, and he also ran 16 times for 83 yards and a touchdown. So you mentioned no one thought it was going to be that good of a game. The spread was 20.5. So once again, they had their chances. Would have been great for them to win it, but I think you can kind of make a statement without making a statement, right? I think Arkansas State kind of said, "Hey, we can play really good football if we have to."
Yeah, I think they absolutely can. I think that builds quite a bit of momentum. I know it's a loss. It's hard to say you build momentum in a loss, but I think that they showed and proved. And honestly, it looks like right there in the background of that picture, you've got some recruits sitting there in the stands from the looks of it, right, with the badge and the neck thing on. I mean, that's the kind of game you want to have in front of recruits. You want to have people that see that type of play that want to come there and commit to your program. So that's good for them overall in the big scheme of things. Okay, we had another one that was definitely more surprising, a little bit closer than I had predicted going in. We had South Alabama going down to Auburn. First ever time that these two teams matched up. Kind of shocking, right? Both in the state of Alabama, and they're finally getting some respect to play.
I did not realize this is really the first time they've ever played each other.
Yep, first time ever.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and now you can see why a little bit, right? They put a little bit of a scare into number 24 Auburn. So we'll see if this one, comes around another time or two, because they may be trying to sign a deal to get out of anything that they might have in the future with the Jags after that scare. I mean, at 31-15, it wasn't immensely close, but watching that game, it always felt like South Alabama was about to be a little dangerous, right? So I don't know. Again, this was not one we had on our radar as being one of the better games of the weekend. We did have a tab on it.
The spread was 26.5. I mean, SEC school at home. You and I were kind of discussing before the show started. It was 21-9 or 28-9 at halftime. But shout out to South Alabama defense. I mean, they held Auburn to 3 points in the second half. Held them to, I think, like 317 yards total offense for the day, or 337 was the total offensive output. South Alabama turns the ball over twice, but most impressed with their defense. I think they played lights out. They took it on the chin a little bit there. I think the second quarter they gave up 3 touchdowns, but after that they didn't give them an inch.
Yeah. If you look at Jackson Arnold, right? I mean, a high-profile guy transferring into Auburn, went only for 142 and 1 touchdown, averaged just 5.9 through the air. So that's what's going to keep you in it, right? And they didn't really allow them to crush them too much on the ground. I mean, we did have a guy go over the century mark in Cobb, but it wasn't really an ugly game. I mean, this score is pretty legitimate. It's not like immensely close, but it was fun still to watch. I mean, I was watching this one pretty late before you could feel like Auburn was going to, really finalize it. But a good one, a great showing from the Jags. We'll have to see if they can continue to do their thing here as, again, we get closer to conference play. Oh, I do want to get to, we'll go off this for just 1 second. I do want to get to Weston's question. With both VT and UCLA firing head coaches, do you think we'll see players enter the portal and find homes in the Sun Belt? Marv, any kind of immediate thoughts on that happening either immediately or somewhat soon?
I mean, potentially, obviously, just logistically, you would think that Virginia Tech players might find their way to a Sun Belt team quicker than a UCLA coach. I'm going to make a UCLA joke really quick. Man, that trade they did for Joey Aguilar worked out really, really well for them. I'm sure they're really happy about that. But dude, with the current with the current state of college football and the transfer portal, like coaching staffs moving, players moving, like, yeah, of course there's a potential that they'll find homes in the Sun Belt. Here's the problem, though.
Yeah, I think I don't really think.
Go ahead.
One more time.
I said, go ahead.
I was just going to say, like, Virginia Tech, I think, like you said, that's very possible that they might be looking for places to land. UCLA, I don't think, UCLA players are going to find their way into the Sun Belt. Not impossible, but less likely.
I think it's easier for Sun Belt players to find their way to UCLA because of money.
Correct.
But yeah, Virginia Tech, heck, some of those players might want to go to ODU after what just happened last weekend.
You're not kidding. And then that would be a pretty good jump for them. I honestly think that'd be a good program to land at. I've heard things about how ODU and I believe Texas State for sure. I think those are the only two that I know for a fact. They're spreading the NIL money. Not the NIL money. That's the wrong statement. They're spreading the payments more than just to, the majority of the football athletes. So all of their athletes are making money. I've heard of a women's soccer player, I won't name names, but a women's soccer player at ODU is getting about 10 grand a season. So that is awesome to hear.
That's very cool.
Because that keeps all of your athletes happy, excuse me. Well, maybe healthy. I mean, that they can use that for other things. But they're already not really paying for a ton of stuff, right? They're getting fed through the program and they're having things done for them that they don't otherwise have to worry about. So these payments that they're receiving really are for their fun money or paying off school or whatever if they're not on full scholarship. So yeah, very useful. And I think it's a great thing that they're paying more than just a couple of high profile football athletes to kind of keep those athletes around, keep them from leaving. And kind of, I think the morale and, athletic department overall is going to be pretty good if everyone's kind of evenly making some substantial base of money. And then, obviously, your hugely profiled guys are going to be making a little bit more when they get those NIL deals, but those are a little bit more individualized. Okay, jumping back into this. This one went about the way I expected, maybe a little bit bigger of a blowout than many had thought, but 52-10, Missouri takes down the Cajuns. Marv, what do you think on this one?
All right, I'm going to give you one stat, and then we can roll on. The Raging Cajuns were 2 for 14 for 4 yards passing the ball. 2 for 14 for 4 yards. Not one quarterback, not one quarter, for the entire game.
Yes.
If you pass for 4 yards and you give up 600 yards on defense, just move along.
Yeah. So that was between Beal and Winfield. Yeah. And it obviously that Missouri defense is good. It's a Drinkowitz led team in Missouri who, was previously at App State. For those that don't remember, he's got experience going against Louisiana, although not this version of Louisiana. Unfortunately, at this point, we know the number one quarterback coming into the season for Louisiana and Walker Howard is out. So this is the second and third string quarterback you're looking at, and Beal, with being a freshman, is not got a ton of experience. Winfield's been around the program and football longer. However, he was listed as the third string quarterback, and it's unfortunately showing why these guys weren't the starters coming into the season. They haven't been able to produce some magic. TJ and I had talked about it. If they could run the ball well and control that clock, they had a chance. Any other thing that was going to happen wasn't going to do them any favors. And yeah, this one got out of hand quickly.
Yeah, it did. Once again, 2 for 14 for 4 yards for an entire game for a D1 football team. Just you can't win like that.
No, not at all. So yeah, I think I'm with you. Kind of. I will say one other thing: the transfer for Louisiana from LSU. A lot of fans not seemingly impressed with his performances. I guess there's some thought process, not full effort, and not working hard to put in the work needed to try and make the play.
Who's this?
Shelton Sampson, I believe, is the name.
Okay.
And then, one other note: Ahmad Hardy, who was at ULM last year, had a career day against the Cajuns. So that's not great.
Yeah, 250 yards and 3 touchdowns. Yeah. I mean, heck, he was good last year. You give him that kind of offensive line to run through. Yeah, but that's 250 yards. That's a good day.
Yeah, very good day, and that'll wrap that one up. Now, this one was one that we did have this one circled as a game of the week. We had just seen Troy come off a really impressive performance against Clemson where they were up at the half. Obviously, Clemson turned it on a little bit after the half and came away with the victory at home. And Troy had kind of gone stale on offense, unfortunately. And they stayed stale on offense again this past weekend. Now, there is a note that Goose Crowder was knocked out early in this game. So they went to Tucker Gilchrist, but he had 7 games of experience from last year, 2 starts, so it's not like he was inexperienced. Thought you might stand a chance still because he got into the game early enough where he could have found a rhythm and got that Troy offense firing, but that was not the case. The only touchdown of the day came on a defensive strip sack fumble return that you can see pictured here for those with the visual.
Which tied the game early.
True.
Made it 7-7. And then after that was it. Kind of the same thing we talked about with Louisiana. They had 112 yards of total offense for the entire game. Only 40 on the ground. Not very efficient through the air. I think they were 12 for 32. If you can't move the ball, you can't score points. Hopefully your defense can keep you in games, which I actually think the Troy defense played pretty well. They didn't give up a ton of yards. They gave up 430, but it was manageable. And more than half the yards were on the ground, so Memphis controlled the clock on them. But 112 yards of offense isn't going to get it done.
Yeah, and to your point about Troy defense not playing bad, even with that yardage, it's because the offense couldn't sustain a drive long enough to get the proper rep. So
they were done. Because if you look at the box score, third quarter was kind of stale. It was 21-7 at halftime. Obviously, 28-7 final score. They just ground and pounded them in the second half and wore them out. And just like you said, if your offense can't sustain drives as a defense when someone's running the ball that much on you, it hurts.
Yeah, Warren adding a note here. Only had 87 total yards until the last drive. And again, the penalties are doing Troy in, is what he's saying there. So got to fix that kind of stuff if you want to compete against an upper echelon G5 team that Memphis is. I thought this one, again, after that Clemson performance, kind of, hey, we could see something here, right? Memphis hasn't been phenomenal so far this year, but
hey, they're 3-0, but hey, Vegas gave them a lot of respect. The spread on that game was 4.5.
Yeah, okay, well, that's good. Yeah, I mean, I think that Troy probably gained a lot of respect after that Clemson performance, so that is good to see.
And then Clemson loses this weekend, and everyone takes away any credibility that a Clemson game gave you.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. Yeah, Brandon Lewis was the quarterback for Memphis, and we had talked about before the game on Wednesday night. He could hurt you through the air as well as on the ground, and he did both. And so that was going to be hard to control. That was where I think Troy struggled the most, was with a mobile quarterback like that. So we'll see if that stays a thing within Sunbelt play, or if they've kind of learned a little bit from this game to see if they can improve upon what they do to kind of spy a quarterback from now on in a set like that. Okay, our really good game of the day as far as comfortable win, expected win. This is one of those ones we said, Marshall, you have to have this one, right? They started a little bit of a surprising 0-2. 0-1 was fine. They had Georgia week 1. That's not too much of a shocker surprise. But when they hosted Missouri State, we thought they'd get on the board and keep those newcomers to FBS winless to start their season. Unfortunately, they got surprised at home 21-20. Now they rebound against Eastern Kentucky here 38-7. Comfortable win. Marv, some standout performances from you or something you're seeing here?
I mean, listen, they jumped out to a 31-0 halftime lead, kind of went on cruise control. Nothing, to be honest with you, is really overwhelming. They had 370 yards of offense. They turned the ball over twice. They did control the time of possession big time, but nothing really stands out. Once again, it kind of seems like they got the big lead and they just coasted, which is fine. If going into conference play, you get a big lead. You don't want to maybe show too much or have your starters out there unnecessarily, but nothing crazy. 263 rushing yards helps, and they held Eastern Kentucky to like 102 yards of offense, so that helps as well. Defense played phenomenal, but like you said, this is one they had to have. So glad they got it.
Yeah, Eastern Kentucky not one of the upper echelon FCS teams, so that this is again one that we knew and circled before the weeks. Hey, this one has to be a win. You have to show out. One thing of note for this one that the rest of the people in the conference may be able to take away as a little bit of a note. It does seem, again, not the best competition to judge this. It does seem that they may have found their number one quarterback finally in Carlos Del Rio Wilson, the Syracuse transfer, the one-time Florida player. So, he has a pedigree of talent and the ability to get this done at the D1 level. Again, he didn't look absolutely amazing, but you win a game 38-7, a game you should win. You've won it pretty much as expected. We may have found Marshall's number one quarterback for the rest of the year. We'll see what happens moving forward, but that's probably the biggest takeaway for everyone else listening who is not a Marshall Thundering Herd fan. Okay, the one where I've got this shirt on. The ODU Monarchs go into Blacksburg, get a coach fired. Also had a lot of fun. I took this little picture here of the screen when they did get a flag thrown on the celebration after this touchdown here by Roche, I think, was when he scrambled into the end zone from, 14 yards out or something, hand up the gut. They were having some fun, which is exactly what you want to see when it's one of our teams taking down one of the big boys, even if Virginia Tech does happen to be down. But Marv, 45-26 over VT.
Man, it was 31-0 at one point. I mean, it was just from the opening kick to the end. I mean, yes, Virginia Tech got 3 touchdowns in the fourth quarter, but that game was well out of hand. Colton Joseph, we had kind of mentioned several times, even dating back to last year, like the guy's got elite speed, right? Everyone knows that if he gets outside the pocket and takes off, that he can burn you at any point. And we had said, if he can start to beat you from the pocket, or at least even on scrambles, if he can beat you with his arm, they're going to become dangerous. 16 for 22, 276 yards and 2 touchdowns to the air. And still had 8 carries for 63 yards and another touchdown on the ground. Just an absolute butt kicking. Really happy for ODU to go and get that win. We mentioned, Virginia Tech's not what they used to be, right? Everyone's used to Beamer ball, but sorry for any of you Dallas Cowboy fans, but it just seems like a long time ago that it hasn't been that in a long time. But what a heck of a win. You mentioned all the stuff, right? In-state, recruiting battleground, just a great win. And in a series that is a heck of a lot closer than a lot of people think.
Yes. Yeah, I think for anybody who's questioning this, go check that out. Winsipedia is a good reference point. I'm not saying they're 100% accurate, but they're pretty good about it. So you can go look up the series history. It breaks it all down by year. The teams that's on the winning streaks and all that kind of stuff is pretty good there. One other note before we move on this one, Traquan Jones, our Sunbelt Player of the Week from last week, and I believe he won it for the conference as well, which is pretty obvious. He had 5 carries for, 200 yards or whatever it was. It was a ton of yards and I think 3 touchdowns. So 3 touchdowns on 5 carries is insane. This week, he only had 1. It's terribly disappointing, right? But he had 13 carries for 101 yards. So 2 back-to-back elite performances from their running back there in Jones. So he stays hot. The competition really improved from NC Central to VT, but he still get the performance to get them rolling and going on there. Yeah. So VT and ODU, we were correct when we talked about this earlier. It is 4-3 in favor of Virginia Tech for now, but G. Wills is saying 2 more dates left for this matchup to occur. So they could gain the advantage rather soon. We'll see what VT does as far as head coaching goes and what they'll do with their program after this.
Do you want the recipe to getting fired as a P5 coach?
Yeah, let's hear it.
I got the recipe. You start your season 0-3. You lose to a in-state team who your fans probably think are inferior, and you commit 12 penalties for 113 yards. That's starting ingredients to getting fired.
That sounds like a recipe for disaster, and that's what that does sound like, though. That is a good call, Marv. Very good call. The Herd Dispatch, they had ODU trails Marshall 9-1 all time, but again, that 4-3 series outcome against VT so far, and they seem to play up to VT, and they definitely do. Artie Cat sending his congratulations from Texas State side of things and saying great job, ODU. So yeah, I mean, I representing the shirt. I've only been to one game in person, but again, if you're traveling looking for a place to go for a Sunbelt destination for football, ODU is a good place to start. If you look up the Monarchists, if you're unaware of those guys, we've had them on the show before. Really good group of guys, do a lot of great coverage for ODU, and definitely congratulated them after this one because, like you said, Marv, this was pretty cool to see at the half being up 31-0. So phenomenal. They came through, finished off the job, right?
Yeah, it was a butt kicking. Really good job, ODU. They definitely wear the crown for the conference this week.
Yeah, absolutely. But this one is going to be one that we had circled for Georgia Southern having to have a win, right? They start the season 0-2. They had the West Swing out in California, 0-2, not impressive overall, although there were some things, listening to Gotta Talk throughout the week, there were some things they liked, right? There was some talent showing up, but not enough of it to get on the winning side of things. But they finally get off the schneid, beat Jax State 41-34. So if you like offense, go back and check this one out. Over 70 points on the board.
Yeah, over 70 points and 800 yards of offense. This was one that Georgia Southern had the lead for most of the game, and they could just never pull away. Like Jacksonville State always answered. Game was tied with 11 minutes to go. Georgia Southern kicks a field goal, or goes up 41-34, scores a touchdown with 6 minutes and 23 seconds left in the game. Just a back and forth affair. If you look at the stats, pretty darn even, which you would expect from a game that this is close. But yeah, definitely one that Georgia Southern needed to have. If they would have lost this one and been 0-3, we could be talking about their coach getting fired or maybe being on the hot seat. I don't think Helton's got the results that Georgia Southern fans are used to. Obviously, the offense doesn't look like what Georgia Southern fans are used to, but yeah, had to have it. And what a game! And I'm sure they're glad to have the win.
Yes, absolutely. TJ Driggers, a big Georgia Southern fan, is commenting, says that he has to watch Brandon Bailey's defense give up 400 yards again. I'm going to go insane, man. Yeah, defense needs to step up a little bit and not let the other team score quite so many times, and then they'll be able to win a little bit more comfortably. Like you said, Marv, this is a team that kept taking the lead. It just couldn't seem like they didn't really give separation. Yeah.
They couldn't finish. I mean, they ended up winning, right? But that killer instinct, put your foot on someone's throat. They had the lead. I'm just kind of going back. They went up 17-14, then 24-14, then 24-17, 31-7, 31-17 in the second quarter. You're like, okay, maybe they're going to pull away.
Maybe, yep.
Jacksonville State just kept chipping away at it. But hey, I hope that defense gives up 500 yards on a Thursday night later on this year.
Yeah, because you need a little reprieve from that last Thursday night game you went to last season, right? Was that was a Thursday night, or was that like Tuesday or something?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Failure to remember. I like it.
Won't know what you're talking about. Hey, the guy who did that to us is no longer there, and the new team he's at mediocre at best.
Yeah, well, we'll take at least a little happiness out of that. But one last note on this: OJ Arnold, 16 carries, 128 yards, and 2 touchdowns. He's definitely going to be on the list of possible players of the week. Watch out for our players of the week. We'll obviously have our write-up as far as an article is concerned. That's probably released on Monday. But we're going to definitely continue with the graphics. They were a big hit. People like those. So we'll play around with those and come up with something creative for you guys to share around as fans and take pride in some of your team's performances. I think Colton Joseph may end up on that list there somewhere too, Marv. Just a shot in the dark.
Yeah, and I think a guy that we're about to talk about here in a second is going to end up on that list as well.
Maybe. Georgia State getting into this one with the Panthers, 37-21 over Murray State. So the Murray State magic for baseball doesn't quite carry over. Georgia State gets their first victory of the season. Murray State still winless. Again, that's why we had this one circled as Georgia State, you better win this one. They did. And TJ Finley looks like the guy going forward for the Panthers, Marv, a name that we're all familiar with in this conference, as he spent a season at Texas State before transferring to Western Kentucky, where it didn't go so well, got hurt, and then, put his name in the portal, finally got claimed up by Georgia State in I think he actually got claimed kind of recently. He had put his name in the portal back in April. So looks like he's found the land.
You think he's the guy? You think he's the guy going forward?
I think he's got the experience, the veteran leadership. I'm not saying that the Brown's not going to find his footing in this thing. But if I got to trust somebody to lead a team, I'm going to be trusting Finley. I mean, he's a dad now, so he's got, he's probably got his head on his shoulders pretty good. And when guys are looking for someone to lead a team and get them to where they need to go, I'm going to put my money behind Finley so far and see if he's going to be the guy. But yeah, they may be splitting some reps until they, really and truly maybe figure out who it is for sure. But it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, I mean, looking at the stats, Finley was 11 for 18, 1 touchdown, 2 picks. But Cameron Brown was 9 for 11 for 101 yards. Here's the cool thing. If you're a quarterback for Georgia State, just throw the ball to Ted Hurst. I mean, that's what I would do. 10 catches, 172 yards, and 2 touchdowns. He definitely needs to be on the short list for Offensive Player of the Week. But we've said it a couple of times. There were several teams in this conference that this week was one of those, like, you have to have this one. This was one for Georgia State, and they got it. So, I think overall I'm still not super impressed with Georgia State. I think when they play better competition, they're going to be outmatched. But you had to have one, and you got it. And, Ted Hurst, shout out. 170. You get 10 passes for 172 and 2 touchdowns is a heck of a game.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. A men among boys for sure. At least it looked like in that game. I'm with you right here. Like Georgia State 23-7 at half. Not uber impressive against a winless team previously. So, yeah, I probably do want to see a little bit more out of the Panthers. But getting into the win column definitely going to be something that just helps the team and the morale in general for that one. Artie Cat saying Dr. Finley continues the proud Harris tradition from UTSA. Yeah, Harris, I think, had 7 years in college. I think Finley is in his 7th year at this point. I think he's in his graduate student year, so I think he's definitely done finally. No matter what happens this year, I think that will do it for his eligibility. But we'll have to see. Maybe some magic will occur. We've seen all kinds of stuff happen with suits and lawsuits, whatever, coming to the NCAA to get more playing time for these guys. All right, so the game that you and I and a couple others that usually are on these shows watched a little bit more closely than some of the others. Southern Miss in the first conference matchup of the season hosted App State down there at the Rock, the Battle of the Rocks, the Battle of the Black and Gold teams, and Southern Miss came out on top 38-22. This one was ugly for the App State side of things. Marv, tell us a little bit about what you saw in this one.
So App State has to lead the nation in red zone turnovers. I think that's 5 through 3 games. 3 interceptions inside of the red zone in the first half of this game. One of them was returned for a touchdown. Southern Miss's defense gave our quarterbacks absolutely no time to do anything. I think they had 4 or 5 sacks on the day, like 8 or 9 tackles for loss. And Braylon Braxton's a really good quarterback, and he's got some really good weapons on offense around him. Just the first half couldn't have gone any worse. It was actually still a close game at halftime, despite App trying to give the game away. And then Southern Miss defense and their offense just put them away in the second half. And, kind of some question marks for App going forward. Obviously, we talked about it a little earlier. A.J. Swan goes down with a lower body injury. Not sure what's going on there. The backup quarterback, J.J. Cole coming in was ineligible, put the freshman quarterback in, and we were kind of talking before the podcast. He looked like a freshman quarterback. Billy Wells comes in and runs the offense pretty good. Don't know if he was going up against second teamers, but not making excuses. Southern Miss's defense was very good in this game. Braylon Braxton's amazing. And anytime you turn the ball over 3 times in your own red zone, you can't win games that way. So shout out to Coach Huff and his revamped Eagle roster, and first conference win of the year for him. Congratulations. I think they brought up on the broadcast last night, like several times, that this was the first D1 win they've had in like 600 plus days.
Yeah. I mean, they won 1 game last year. It was against an FCS opponent. So yeah, it's been a long time. Kind of crazy, which again, I gave some of the Southern Miss fans a little bit of a hard time last night when we went live with college football backers. We did kind of a joint thing. We'll be doing that throughout the season on Saturday night. If you're up late watching some West Coast stuff, won't talk all about Sunbelt. We're spreading it out all over the place. We will talk a little Sunbelt. We'll talk about a lot of the big games too. So if you ever have some interest in just watching a podcast about random football stuff, it won't be something we do full on with this show, but we will stream it through our platform on here for people to take part in. But yeah, we talked about the attendance there as well, because just like Arkansas State, big game, but really not full stands. I know that they said, Destiny specifically brought it up saying, you only bring up attendance when you have nothing else to talk about. And it's true. I mean, we don't really have, as App fans, really didn't have anything to hang your hat on in this game. I mean, you had Dominick as the leading rusher with 95 yards on a touchdown. Barnes, the leading receiver, with 132 and a touchdown. You still got beat up pretty good in this one. So,
once again, you turn the ball over 3 times in the red zone, and App State News to see the comment, injuries to Swan and Ramsey disrupted the rhythm. Yeah, I mean, losing your quarterback and a key part of your offensive line definitely, messes your rhythm up. But so does turning the ball over 3 times in the red zone in the first half. That really screws up. And getting sacked, I'm trying to find the stat. There was a lot of sacks. Our offensive line just couldn't do anything. And listen, if we want to touch on attendance, not trying to take a jab at Southern Miss, but they've had some down years. It's going to take a little bit of time to get the fan base back re-engaged. Maybe a win like this gets the fan base re-engaged. You would think that Southern Miss has a great tradition of football, right? My childhood hero played football at Southern Miss, Brett Favre. So they're passionate about it. You got to win, and I think they got the guy that's going to win them a lot of football games. So I think the attendance will get better as it goes along once they see that, hey, this isn't a fluke. This is a good team.
Yeah, I think you're right. This is a Southern Miss team that, to me, I said, they'll have their bumps early on as they try and figure chemistry out and figure out who their guys out and figure out the formations and how these coaches are going to react. But this is a team that, to me, could be firing on all cylinders by the end of the season. And this is a good first showing on their way to that type of performance from now on. Weston saying 5 sacks on the day, and coming into the game only allowed 2 all season. Yeah. So that is a very impressive mark for Southern Miss. Obviously, the opposite for App State in that one. Sean Walker saying we will get our attendance up 24,000. It's going to take time. It is going to take some time. This is a good first step. When Coach Huff has asked you to help fill the stadium, bring the noise, we're going to need the help on the field with this type of team. App State's not what they once were, but they do have that pedigree when they show up, just as like a Boise State, right? Boise State got rocked in their first game against South Florida. Do you think anybody who's traveling to Boise State or hosting Boise State is going to think this isn't a good team. We can walk through this. No, Boise State has a pedigree along the lines of App State. JMU may be getting up there now. There's a couple at Memphis. We just talked about them earlier. These types of teams have this pedigree that, like, you better show up with the noise. You better show up with the full attendance to get any kind of advantage you can on your side. So it'll be interesting to see how quickly that starts to take shape for Southern Miss. Again, proud program, like you said, Marv. It had some really historic players come through there. You know, the defense known as the Nasty Bunch. They were definitely nasty on Saturday to App State's offense. So be interesting
App
to
State
see.
offensive line needs to find Jamon Trapp's Venmo and request payment because he lived in our backfield on Saturday night and they need to charge him rent. He had 3 sacks.
Yeah, he did.
3 sacks, 3 tackles for loss.
Yeah.
I mean, just every time. And one thing I want to mention, something I saw in the game, and I'm going to give Coach Huff a ton of credit for this. I think they took 4 defensive timeouts in that game. I don't know if you noticed that. In the first half, all 3 timeouts were defensive timeouts. Anytime App started to get into a rhythm, Coach Huff called a timeout. Slow it down. Let's figure things out for a second. I thought it was just great coaching on his behalf. Maybe that's not what he was doing. Maybe there was something else going on. But like the casual observer, I know as an App fan, every time he caught a timeout, I was like, dang it. Like he called us in a rhythm, and it felt like he was trying to slow us down and get the right defensive personnel out there for what he was seeing. So kudos to them. Good win for Southern Miss. And, yeah, I think this is a team that's going to win 8 or 9 games this year and get to a pretty decent bowl game. Hell, they might even compete for a spot in the conference championship game.
Yeah, I definitely have them as an outside shot to get to the conference championship with a better look now after this performance and after this score line here. Brenda's commenting saying, what a difference a year makes. Southern Miss 3rd in the conference in scoring behind ODU and Texas State, 6th in scoring defense after being last in everything last year. Yeah. But again, I will say for some of those people that are a little surprised maybe by Southern Miss or maybe surprised about where some people had them preseason, if you go back and look at some of the games, not all of them, but some of those games weren't blowouts, right? Even though they were almost winless last year, they had some close calls without much of any offense. So their defense really wasn't a weak point last year. In fact, it was probably a strong point that could have been better had the offense sustained drives longer and put more points on the board to help them in the end. So they really needed the offense to come in, and that's where Huff and Braylon Braxton and some of the other transfers come in to help that side of things to bluster the defense as well. So obviously that looks to be working pretty well at this point. Neil saying App hasn't been the same since COVID. Can't really argue too much difference there. They had that 1 year where, had JMU been eligible, they wouldn't have been in the championship game. So, yeah, without that, we'll have to see. TJ said our only conference win would be ULM. Destiny bringing the heat there. She took notes. This is so great.
Oh, God, Destiny. TJ's a good man. Leave him be.
Oh man, we'll have to see if TJ shows up Wednesday. He's gonna be like, man, I'm getting drugged through here. Oh man, yeah. Southern Miss can use Texas old stick, which is we're back, and Artie may be right about that. They may be back, and listen, if they're back, you're gonna notice their fans are everywhere on the social medias. So be ready for that if that takes place. She's got
burner accounts will be coming and going here very shortly.
Oh yeah. If you don't know how many burner accounts for Southern Miss exist, you're probably about to find out. It's a lot.
Let them win 2. Let them win 2 more games in a row. You'll know about it.
There you go. All right, this one we're not going to have much to talk about. Nope. Coastal Carolina is in a world of hurt. They lose to East Carolina 38-0. A goose egg for the Chants in this one. About the only thing you can say, enjoy the free concessions.
A couple things. I think East Carolina is a heck of a lot better football team than a lot of people gave them credit for coming into the season. With that being said, you turn the ball over 5 times, and I feel like I've said this a lot, but you can't win that way. You just can't do it. You can't turn the ball over 5 times. But I think Beck's butt's starting to get a little warm. and I think by the end of the season it might be on fire. Pun
Yeah,
intended.
I think I think it's already on fire. If the Twitterverse is alive and well, they're not happy there, and they shouldn't be happy. All right, there's nothing to be happy about. But if some teams sometimes see some promise, right? Like ULM started hot last year, and then they went winless for the last 5 or 6 games, but there was promise there, so no one was really calling for an immediate change. Obviously, they wouldn't have done that in his first year anyway. I wouldn't hope anyway. But this is a little different, right? They've given Beck some time here, and we're still not seeing the offense really evolve. I think 5 turnovers for their offense in total, 3 of them by the quarterback.
No, all 5 by the quarterback. So Tad Hudson throws 2 picks and loses
3.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, I remember the 3 fumbles. It was the picks I forgot about.
And probably the most frustrating thing if I was a Coastal fan is they stuck with him. So that either means you do not have a backup quarterback, which that's very concerning, or your coach is too stubborn to say, okay, we got to make a change.
Well, this is the sad part. They had made the change because Morris was the starter for the year. So this is Tad's chance here, and that it didn't go so well. I will say this, he came in the end of that Charleston Southern game and looked pretty good to kind of get the offense rolling towards the end of that FCS game from last week, where they only won 13-0 against an FCS opponent. But, the defense had the shutout. So he thought, okay, the defense is pretty good. And that's Zach's point here, just when you thought the offense couldn't get any worse, right? But he said the defense gave him plenty of chances once again. They just can't keep it up for 8 straight quarters, which is, going to be hard for any team, not just Coastal. So the Hurt Dispatch getting a little shot in wasn't paying attention to Coastal. They might be cheeks.
I don't know if defense gave him chances, to be completely honest. They gave up 500 yards of offense.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
I don't know. That's it's tough. I think you'll be seeing a new guy wearing the headset down in Conway next year.
Yeah. If what Zach is hearing apparently from his comment here, he was told at the game from someone within the program, Beck has 2 weeks, and he said that could always change though.
Let's forecast their next 2 weeks are South Alabama, ODU, so then ULM App. I mean, they don't have the easiest next 4 weeks.
No, especially those next 2. Those next 2, I'm not looking at any possible win with those 2 teams.
And those next 2 are both on the road.
Yeah, that's not doing them any favors.
Just to make matters worse.
Yeah, that's not good. Emmett Brown also out for the year as well, with Zach's comment there. So not looking good for the Chants. We'll have to see if they pull some magic out and get something else to happen. All right, the nightcap, Artie's Bobcats go to Tempe, Arizona, come away with a 34-15 loss. I will say, watched a good amount of this, even as we were kind of streaming on that other one for the college football backers, as I spoke about. Out of the corner of my eye, and as I got to look at the screen, I really just thought Texas State didn't have their best game. Okay, they didn't play terribly, but they didn't move the ball really well like they had been so far this season. I really thought Arizona State looked phenomenal. They looked every bit of the Arizona State from last season, which I didn't feel like they had really shown yet this year. And that's why I thought Texas State really had a shot to win here. Didn't get blown out, not a horrible score, but yeah, they didn't do enough to get the victory either.
It was 27-3 midway through the third quarter. I'm going to agree with you and Artie. I think Texas State played its worst game of the season, and I think Arizona State played its best game of the season. And sometimes those 2 things, unfortunately, happen at the same time. And like you said, not blown out. They got some late touchdowns, but when it's 27-3 with 8 minutes to go in the third quarter, it's still a long way to go. But you can kind of see the writing on the wall. But credit to Texas State for fighting until the very end. Statistically, they got outplayed, right? They turned the ball over twice when Arizona State didn't turn the ball over. Played a clean game. They only had 1 penalty. Time of possession was pretty even, but losing the 2 fumbles, those 2 turnovers really, really hurt. And once again, I think they played their worst game, and Arizona State played their best. last year, obviously, they had was it last year or 2 years ago when they had Arizona State at home and they beat them? It was last year,
Last
right?
year, just last year. Yep.
Sometimes playing at home helps, but I don't think this is anything for Texas State to be like, oh my God, we're not what everyone thought we were. I think you're still a good team. You just played a bad game against a good team.
Yep, I agree. I actually like how you said it. I don't think Texas State looked. Artie says he thinks they look terrible. He's watched them a little closer than the rest of us. So obviously, so I'll give him whatever knowledge he's going off of for that. Personally, having seen some other Sun Belt games and then seeing what I saw on TV.
Hey, Artie, you want to see terrible? Watch your team turn the ball over in the red zone 5 times in the first 3 weeks. Then we can talk.
Yeah. So I would say that, they picked a bad time not to have their best game. And like you said, Marv, I think that's a good way to describe it. Arizona State just did have a really, really good game, probably their best of the season. I don't know. Looking in the crowd and stuff, I didn't see it was too cold or too hot in Tempe. If it was like really perfect weather condition, maybe that just really favored Arizona State. They're used to some humidity and they didn't really have to battle it or something, right? I don't know.
It doesn't give me the weather information on the game. Good attendance, 54,000 people. But I've been to Arizona in October and it's been 90-something degrees. So who knows? But Texas, Arizona, I mean, we're not talking like going from Denver to Florida or anything like that.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's not a drastic difference. So both teams would have been fine with a little heat and humidity. Artie says, look out Nichols, because that is the team that Texas State gets to rebound with. And obviously the early outcome on that one is that they will be circled as you better win this game for next week, because we'll expect them to bounce back very well in that one. All right, that wraps up the slate. We did not have a game from ULM, JMU, or there was one other team that I am blanking on. I think we had 11 games this week. So there was 3 teams that didn't have games. Let's see if I can, off the top of my head. Oh, JMU played earlier. No, that was last week.
JMU's off.
So JMU and ULM did not. Yeah. I'm going blank on whatever other team didn't play right now off the top of my head. But anyways, that'll pretty much. Yeah.
I think those are the only 2.
So we had 12 games. Okay.
Let me get back
my math wrong then. That's what it was.
1, 2, 3, 4. No, we only had 11 games. Somebody else.
So there.
All right,
was a third team somewhere didn't play. Oh, that's good. This is why. Zach's point. That was a conference game. Southern Miss played out. So
we're going to sit here and bang our heads up against them for a little while.
Yeah. I promise we weren't drinking before the show. Just a Sunday night brain there. Not picking up on that. Thank you, Zach, for pointing that out. There you go. Man, Artie Cat says great.
I'm just looking through the schedule for next week. I'm not trying to give any hints at the preview show, but not a ton of major matchups for next week. I think JMU Liberty, obviously State of Virginia might have some relevance there. Then you've got Coastal South Alabama, Georgia State going to 20th ranked Vanderbilt, who's probably going to be ranked a little higher than that now. Southern Miss, Louisiana Tech. Yeah, that's a good one. So yeah, but there are definitely some teams that got to get right next week.
Yeah, no doubt about it. We'll see what prevails. Marv, any last news, notes, details, anything you want to share before we get out of here?
No, but you won't be seeing me for 3 weeks. I'm going on hiatus, going on sabbatical.
That's right. Paid vacation from Sunbelt Syndicate. You're welcome, Marv.
Yeah. When's that check in here, by the way?
Look for it in never.
Perfect timing.
Yeah. Hey, no, when I can throw you some bucks, I definitely will.
Yeah, we're all good.
We will continue doing this in the meantime because we have a good time doing it, and we appreciate all the comments and interaction before we get out of here. And we will see you guys for Wednesday night's preview, but we'll see if Destiny shows back up to give TJ some more hard time. But thanks for tuning in, and we will see you guys later.
See y'all.